Hey everybody, it's Chris Jesty, finally coming back into the world of casting Mega Mech matches. It's been a long time coming, but it's going to be worth it. We've got a new match here. I'm going to try a new format. We'll see how it goes. This match was played back in April during the VPT 1. This is a Tweezer versus DesertDream, aka Sam, and these are both command members. And I think at the time, Tweezer and myself were not part of MRC Command, but this is basically a command on command match. So I figured it'd be interesting, and we're going to get right into the lists. Coming up, we've got, I do believe this is Sam using a Jade Falcon list. He's running a Firemoth A, coming in with an AMS tag and a Streak SRM4, not bad. He's got a squad of elemental space battle armor with the micro pulse laser. So going budget there just to squeeze them in, I'm pretty sure. This was a 10k BV, I do believe, a Jihad event, or maybe it was 9k. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's been a long time. Up next, he's got the Cougar XR, which is a 587 movement profile with a 175XL engine, 23 total heat sinks, because it's got a partial wing. That's how you get odd numbers of heat sinks if you're not using singles. And he's also got an ER medium pulse laser and 2 Clan LRM 15s with Artemis 5. So they basically have a targeting computer, or a -1 small pulse effect on those, or +1, whatever you want to call it, on those LRM 15s. And including the bonus to the cluster roll table. Up next, he's got a Behemoth Stone Rhino 5, 100-ton Assault Mech Beast. This one's only 4.6, so it doesn't jump, but it runs a little quicker. 264 out of 307 armor. Not bad. 24 double heat sinks, and oh, that's a lot of DACA. It's got 4 LBX5 autocannons and 6 ER medium lasers, and enough shots to fire them every single turn. And I don't think he's going to run out of ammo. Not bad, or at least for 10 turns now that I look at it. No, he's got 4 tons. That's 80. Yeah, he's got enough to fire that thing every single turn. Not bad. Next up, we've got the Hellhound 2-P. It's 5.8 movement profile, 250 XL engine. These are all clan mechs, so the XL's not that big of a detriment. 28 double heat sinks, not terrible. 163 out of 169 armor, solid for a 50 tonner. It's got an ER large laser, an LB10X, an SRM6, and another ER large laser. Not bad. A little bit of a sniper there, coming in at 5.8. Not bad. Next up, we have a Fire Falcon C. It's a 812 movement profile, 76 out of 89 armor, coming in at 25 tons. It's got 20 total heat sinks. It's got a medium pulse laser, an ER small laser, small pulse laser, 4 machine guns, and 2 SRM6s. This is a crit fisher if I've ever seen one. And it's got only a half ton of machine gun ammo, so it's only going to go big boom, not big bada boom, and 1 ton of SRM6 ammo. So by the time you close the gap, and I don't think the longevity's there in a Fire Falcon, you can feel free to fire those every turn. And an active probe. So just in case, might need it for a mission. So that rounds out Sam's list. He's got 1 big heckin' chonker, 1 medium weight sniper, and a bunch of fast boys. The Cougar XR is quick with that 7 jump. The Dasher is of course a Dasher, so it's going to be extra fast. And the Fire Falcon is basically a clan locust. So, and 1 squad of battle armor. Not bad. Well-rounded list. I like it. Next up, we have Tweezer's list. He's got the venerable awesome 9Q, 3.5 movement profile, 38 double heat sinks, maximum armor for an 80 tonner at 247 out of 247. He's got 4 PPCs, a small laser, and an ECM suite just for good measure. Not a terrible mech. This is probably one of the most optimized in your sphere mechs, hands down. Solid. base for the list. Next up, we've got a Bloodhound B2-HND. This is a 45 tonner coming in at 711 movement profile with a 315 XL 24 double heat sinks. This, I do believe, is an inner sphere mech, so we'll see if that XL engine comes to bite him in the butt. He's got 152 out of 153 armor, so basically maxed for this weight class. An ER medium in each arm, an ER small in each arm, a streak 6, and an ER medium in the head. So 3 ER mediums total and 2 ER smalls with a streak 6 for crit fishing. Not bad. It's also got an ECM case, which isn't really going to help it that much if it goes boom, and an active probe. So he's got the full ECM or electronic warfare list here. Not bad. Also, he's got a Gargoyle G, and after doing some reverse engineering on his list, I deduced that he's Free Worlds League. I could be wrong. If I am, correct me later, Tweezer, down in the comments. He's on a Manowar Gargoyle G. So this one's a 5'8 movement profile, 32 double heat sinks, 211 out of 247 armor. I love the Gargoyle all around. Don't think I've ever ran this variant because it's got 3 AP Gauss rifles, an LBX 20, and 4 ER mediums. So that's not bad. A nice well-rounded loadout, and it gives you some fly swatting capabilities. Pretty solid. Nothing special there, no ECM, no nothing, but it is an Omni-Mech, so he can carry battle armor, which he doesn't have any, so it's moot. Next up, we have the Austral OTL-8M, a 60 tonner coming in at 6'9 with 22 double heat sinks, 176 out of 201 armor. Not bad for a 60 tonner. You can take a bit of a hit. And he's got 1 large pulse laser, 3 medium pulse lasers, an ER medium laser, a PPC, and an ER small laser, and he's got TSM. Ooh, I like it. That's not bad at all. You've got enough weapons to maintain your heat, and you've got some of those crucial small heat weapons and multiple numbers of heat. That way you can modulate it as necessary to stay at that 9. I like it. Solid. I'm gonna have to try this one out later. And rounding out the list, we've got a Ferret Light Scout VTOL with a machine gun that moves for 15 on a cruise and 23 on a flank. It weighs a grand total of 5 tons and has basically 1 or 2 armor anywhere. You hit this with an LB2X and you might kill it. And it's got 1 ton or 1/2 ton of machine gun ammo, and it can carry 1 ton of troops, just in case you have a 1-ton troop. So it's basically there for spotting purposes, or maybe running and grabbing objectives early on in the match. And a skimmer, which is basically a hovercraft version of that ferret we just saw, coming in at 17/26 hover movement profile. This thing only weighs 5 tons as well, but since it's not a VTOL, it can actually survive, maybe hopefully, an LB2X to any location except the rear. And it's got a small laser and a flamer, so it's got to get right up in there to do any real damage, or any damage period. So he's got a big chonker, another big chonker, but this is a fast boy on the Gargoyle. The Awesome's going to be his anchor, the Gargoyle is going to be his bodyguard, and the Bloodhound and the Austral are just going to go wreak havoc, especially that Austral. I'm curious to see how he utilizes it, because this map is going to be quite big, because they're going to be playing on the bunker busting mission and map. So it's going to be hard for him to use that TSM effectively unless he just goes straight for the enemy mechs, which we're going to go ahead and get into the first round. Pull it up here. Where did it go? Nope, it's gone. Let's see if we can find it. Aha, here we go. There's our fancy schmancy MRC logo. And here is placement. So I apologize for the quality, but that's all we've got because it's Mega Mech. So bunker busting is corner to corner deployment. So you can deploy basically anywhere halfway up either side. And it looks like both players have elected to do so in the middle of the map. As you can see, Tweezer down here has his ferret, his Manowar, and his skimmer down by his own center building here. And Sam has his Dasher, Cougar, and Behemoth up on north at his center building. He's also got his Hellhound and a Fire Falcon at the the back corner. I don't know if he's going to make a beeline across the map, because Tweezer similarly has his awesome in the same location, maybe for defensive purposes. That way you can swing north or east in this case, because the awesome's not going anywhere in a hurry, but that Hellhound and Fire Falcon definitely are. And the Bloodhound and Austral are over here on the northwest side, so he's probably going to try and intercept Sam as he crosses the river out in the open ground here. So this is a custom map that I made, and since it was for VPT 1, there have been many changes. The map is now going to be 5 hexes smaller with some modifications to the buildings to prevent people from hiding in the donut hole. But that's not important right now. Let's go ahead and get into the next phase, which is the movement phase of turn 1. So as you can see, Sam's moved up toward the river, as has Tweezer in this north portion of the map. They're going to probably tussle here over the river. He's moved up the Fire Falcon, and interestingly enough, it looks like he's left the Hellhound back as a bodyguard here. The Awesome's slowly lumbering down toward the center. Man-O-War making his way to this southeast building with the Skimmer and Ferret already there, hopefully going to start chipping away at these buildings. If I failed to mention at the beginning, which I probably did, the objective is to destroy your opponent's buildings, and of course combat score always helps. Each hex is worth a certain number of victory points, and when you collapse the building, which only takes 4 out of the 6 hexes of the building, the entire building collapses, and you get the extra points for making the whole building collapse for those other 3 or 2 hexes. So the goal is, I do believe these are 60 construction factor possibly at this point. There's been some errata and changes to the map, so forgive me if I'm incorrect in this old version of the map. So they're both trying to destroy each other's buildings, but it looks like Tweezer's making more of an effort to interfere and intercept than Sam is. We'll see how that works out for him. So we're gonna scooch along a little bit. Okay, here we are at turn 1 firing lines. The Behemoth, Dasher, and Cougar are all going in on that Bloodhound. It looks like he's dumped off the elementals on turn 1, which is an interesting decision, especially on a map this big. I guess you do want to make sure you can fire with all your weapons and make sure that you don't die with your elementals on board so they don't get crushed under your mech. But that seems a bit premature at this point, especially when you've got a Dasher that can make it halfway across the map in a hurry. I could be mistaken, but I do believe they're on the board now. So the Gargoyles starting to chip away at this building in the bottom right, the east portion of the map, and the Awesome's throwing fire in. I think that might be at the Dasher from the looks of it, possibly the Elementals since they stood still, or they count as standing still on the first turn. We'll see how this goes by pulling up the combat log. Oh, combat log goes in the log hole. All right, so there's the initiative, here's the movement phase we get to see, and here's a weapon attack phase. Yep, that's correct. The Awesome is firing into those elementals that didn't move, needing boxcars. Not losing anything because it's just PPCs, no ammo, no foul. Same thing for the Bloodhound. Not connecting with anything, trying to get some lucky shots in these first early turns where the ranges are extremely long. The Cougar also whiffs. It looks like we've got some damage onto the building from the Gargoyle. There we go. And not much else is looking like it's going on here. Here's a Stone Rhino needing 12s and 11s, not hitting with a single thing. And this is the typical first turn. Everybody shoots, everybody whiffs. Nothing happens. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you get one thing to hit, but that's kind of to be expected. Behemoth's sitting at 2 heat already on turn 1, and the Austral is already up to 9 heat and has that TSM active. So initiative for round 2 goes to Tweezer. Don't recall if initiative comp is on. It should be, and we'll keep track of that as the rounds go on. So let's take a look at what happens in round 2. So firing lines, and here's the aftermath. And looks like he's just scooching the elementals up a bit across the board. And here's the movement for round 2. Dasher makes it to the building. Elementals, I don't recall whether or not they can actually damage the building with their, battle armor class weapons, so maybe dumping them off in the middle is the best play. But the Dasher's going to start working on this building over here in the northwest, while the Skimmer and Man of War get closer and start tearing down this building on the bottom in the southeast. Hellhound's moving out finally. I think he didn't quite move him that first turn. Fire Falcon's in the middle of the map and not in a friendly spot. He's out in the open in the river, and there's an Ostol and a Bloodhound basically at point blank range. That's at least 3 hexes, maybe 4. 3 from the Bloodhound for sure. Looks like 4 from the Ostol, so medium range for most of his weapons, if not long range with some of those pulse lasers, which counts as medium after the -2. The Awesome scooches down a bit more. The Behemoth scooches out a bit more. Not much to talk about maneuver wise, other than this Cougar, who did look, it appears, jump across the river and is not engaging. He's hiding in these woods behind level 1, I do believe, cover. So I figured he would at least turn this way, or maybe he moved the Cougar first, which is why the Ostol and the Bloodhound are not in his firing arc. More than likely, that's probably the case. That doesn't seem like a move Sam would make. He's an experienced player. So let's go ahead and see what the firing lines look like. If we can. There we go. Hellhound from downtown onto the Ostol. Fire Falcon splitting fire on the Ostol and the Bloodhound. Behemoth and Awesome are going to be trading blows here, with the Cougar adding in some support. Dasher, of course, is going into the building. And I don't think the Gargoyle down here in the bottom right can see this building over here, because there's level 2 or 3 hexes in the way. I do believe those are level 2. He is on level 0. The building is a level 2 building, but also on level 0. So I don't think he has line of sight this turn. We'll find out later if in the firing phase. Speaking of which, let's pull up that log. So the Ferret makes all of his movement rolls. Dasher doesn't fail his mask roll. Thank Phoebus. Weapons fire for the Dasher. He does hit with the tag. I don't know if he has any weapons that can really capitalize on that, because there's a lot of open space and lines of fire. We've got a weapon attacks for the Hellhound. One of those ER large lasers, Clan Spec, nails the Ostol from downtown. So destroys his poor little searchlight. Going down, the Awesome nails the Behemoth with 1 PPC on 10s. The Cougar XR nails the Awesome with an LRM-15, needs 10, rolls an 11. ECM prevents the bonus for Artemis 5, only 5 missiles hit. So not great, but also not terrible. At least you're getting some damage out. The Ferret nails the building for all of 2 damage with the machine gun. And the Fire Falcon C, which split fire between the Ostol and the Bloodhound, completely misses with all of his weapons. Oh, okay, I see why he split fire. He had machine gun shots on the Bloodhound since it was within 3 hexes. On 12s, you may as well take them. You never know. But that is a whiff fiesta. Not a single thing hitting there for that Fire Falcon. Behemoth doesn't get any return fire hits except on these LBX5s. Ooh, needs 7s. So, that's weird. He needed 10s for the ER medium. Oh, it's got to be medium range for these LBXs, plus the cluster bonus gets the difference from 10 to 7. So he does pop the Awesome for 5, another 3, another 2, 1 critical chance, no crit fruits though. He plinked him for a good bit of damage there, but it's an Awesome. It's designed to eat crits. It's so packed out with heat sinks that even if you do get one to go through, it's probably just going to shrug it off. But you could get lucky and get the engine or gyro or a head hit or something, so you always take those shots if they're given to you. And the Ostol returning fire at the Fire Falcon needs a 13, 2 11s and a 9, and completely whiffs. Dasher nails the building, 52 CF in that particular hex. Bloodhound returns fire on the Fire Falcon, also a whiff fiesta, except for 1 ER medium laser that hits on 10s. And the Gargoyle whiffs on 11s and 10s on the Hellhound in a rebuttal. Physical attack phase, Dasher just kicks a building. Heat, Behemoth is up to 4 heat. He's going to have to drop a weapon if he wants to remain mostly neutral and avoid any penalties. And initiative for round 3. Not really much to talk about during that round. Just a whole lot of missing, which is kind of to be expected. So initiative streak compensation is on. Sam rolled a 8, which is 7 plus 1, because this is the second turn in a row losing initiative. So let's go ahead and see what these guys do. So this is the aftermath after the shooting phase. Not really much difference in the status quo. And here's the movement phase. So this is interesting. The Bloodhound runs up onto the Hellhound, which looks like it failed a PSR running on asphalt, which is no bueno. The elementals jump back across the river for some reason. The Dasher maintains his position, kicking away at this building. The Cougar jumps up. The Fire Falcon gets rear shots on the Awesome. And the Behemoth is not in a good spot with the Soul behind it in its rear arc. With those 12 damage TSM punches, the Gargoyle is now in firing range of the southeast building. So probably going to see some hexes starting to drop this turn. I would not be surprised. And it looks like, I think you can see that Sam definitely lost initiative here. He was able to get the Fire Falcon in a good spot, but that Bloodhound and that Osel are in prime damage dealing positions. Let's take a look at the lines of fire, which are probably going to be self-evident here. Yep, Awesome into the Behemoth, Behemoth into the Awesome, Fire Falcon the Awesome, Cougar into the Osel instead of the Awesome. Okay, that's a choice. Not bad. Trying to get some rebuttal there. Bloodhound and Hellhound exchanging fire, and the Gargoyle into the building with the Skimmer and Ferret helping out with their little poke weapons. Dasher and working on that same building X. Elementals are out of range, unfortunately, right now. Not doing too much. I would like to have seen him jump them across the river. That way, they could have, if he would have gone from this river hex to over here, he would have been in prime position to punish that Osel with those elementals. But we'll see if they can get some use out of him later on in the match. Let's go ahead and pull up the combat log here, if I can find it. Oh, wait, no, where'd it go? Had it, lost it. There we go, found it. Here is the Ferret, making all of his piloting skills, and there's that failed piloting check. Needs 3, rolls a -1, rolls a 2, and falls because he's running and turning on pavement. That's tough luck. So he does take a little bit of damage to himself there, but gets up and succeeds. Oh, wait, no, hang on. He makes his seatbelt check. There we go. He doesn't have enough movement to get up, and the skid ends. He only suffers 3 damage from the skid to the CT. Not terrible. All torso hits for that fall damage. I don't know if I like that. Maybe you take arm, leg damage instead there. Moving on, Fire Falcon makes his piloting check for running and turning on pavement. Needed a 6 and rolled a 9. So pavement is scary, especially if you're running on it and you're a mech. So watch out. Weapon attacks, Hellhound 2 can only fire an ER large laser apparently, and misses on 12s. Gargoyle destroys the hex of the building. There we go. And he's working on the other hex already. He's already got it down to 41 out of 60. Not bad. Cougar does connect on the Hostile with the ER medium pulse. The 2 LRM-15s whiff on 10s. The Ferret blinks away at the building as well. Behemoth misses with 3 ER mediums on the Awesome, but he does connect with 1 LB5 needing 10s. Not great numbers this turn. It's just 3 pellets on a max armor Awesome. It's not doing too much, unfortunately. The Skimmer also plinking away at the building. Fire Falcon gets into the rear, but doesn't really cluster too well with its hits. The medium pulse has got the left torso rear down to 3 armor, but there's still 14 armor in the center torso rear. The right torso rear is down to 4, so you're kind of spreading them out across the 3 rear torsos. You're gonna have to stay in that rear torso for an extended period of time in order to make anything happen, because this thing is just so heavily armored. Maybe you don't even bother shooting at it from the front anymore. just focus on staying in the rear with your Fire Falcon and or Cougar. Next up, the Awesome fires at the Behemoth, nails it for 10 damage with the PPC on 10s. So Tweezer is definitely winning this battle of attrition, at least in the long range fight. And the Bloodhound onto the Hellhound because he gets that skid bonus for running and falling, and he's prone. He needs 9s and 11s on all the shots and misses all of them, except for one, doing 5 damage to the left leg. Not really that important. Hostile, on the other hand, in the rear of the Stone Rhino, gets him on the right torso rear with a large pulse and a medium pulse connecting in the same torso. Gets internal, 15 internal structure remaining, no crit roll. There is a crit roll, but no crit fruit. Building collapses due to damage, and the Stone Rhino falls directly in front of that dangerous little Ossel. That is not good. He needed a 5 and he rolled a 3. That is a big ouch. And he lands on his right rear torso. Oh no. So he's down to 10 internal structure. Unless he wins initiative, it's going to be impossible for him to keep that Ossel out of his rear arc. That is not good for that Behemoth. At least he makes a seatbelt check. Awesome makes his piloting check for taking more than 20 damage, and he's fine. Onto the physical attack phase. Fire Falcon kicks the Awesome, but the Awesome proceeds to punch the Fire Falcon in the head for 8 damage. Wow, wasn't expecting that. Needs 11s, rolls 11. Whew, the dice are definitely favoring Tweezer so far in this match. Dasher kicks the building, 36 CF remaining. I think the Dasher's not gonna win that fight between the Gargoyle and the Skimmer and the Ferret for killing the building faster. So the Ostel also kicks the Behemoth, 24 damage to the CT on the front arc, thankfully. If not, that could have been real bad. And the Awesome makes his PSR for being kicked, only needing 4s. Heat phase, Behemoth is down to 1 heat, Ostel still sitting at 9. Everything else is at 0. Going into round 4, Sam does win initiative, so hopefully he can keep that Ostel out of his rear arc. Let's take a look and see if he can make it happen. There's the firing lines. Here's the aftermath, prone right here on the Behemoth, and jammed here on the Fire Falcon. And here's the movement for the next turn. So the Behemoth is able to shake the Ostel, probably saving it for last. Not in a great spot though, because that Ostel instead went after the Dasher, which probably moved earlier in the round, and he probably saved that Ostel for last. Elementals are jumping back. I guess they're going to try and engage the Bloodhound. The Hellhound is in the wrong direction, not really able to get any shots or rebuttal onto this Bloodhound, because it looks like he was able to move the Bloodhound to block line of fire and get in and close the gap on these buildings. He's going to start being able to damage that top right building real soon here. And the Gargoyle, Ferret, and Skimmer doing their building thing, and the Fire Falcon's making his way downtown to start working on this south building. In order to complete the objective, you do need to destroy 2 of these 3 buildings, and it looks like each player has made their choice, with Bloodhound or with Tweezer going for both of these on the right edge or east edge of the map, and Sam splitting his forces up, one going northwest and the other one going straight down the middle of the map to the south end. We'll see how that works out for him. And we'll draw lines of fire, as you would assume. Dasher into the building, Ossel into the Dasher, Behemoth into the Awesome, Awesome into the building, Hellhound from downtown into the Awesome because he's on a level 2 hex and ignoring all that terrain. Fire Falcon into the building, Cougar also into the building. So, ooh, that's an interesting choice. I forgot to mention that Cougar's way over here. Not really helping out with the fisticuffs, but I think he figured out that Dasher, it just doesn't have the damage to take out this building in a hurry, or at least as fast as he would like it to, so he's going to have to commit more mechs to destroying building hexes. All right, let's pull up that combat log and see what we've got here. Okay, round 4. Ferret succeeds. It's doing a bunch of piloting maneuvers, probably to keep its TMM up.
Fire Falcon succeeds, running and turning on pavement. Behemoth stands up. Hellhound stands up. So they're at least not on the pavement anymore. And the weapon attack phase. So Awesome nails the Hellhound from downtown. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Other way around. Hellhound nails the Awesome with 1 ER large laser on boxes and nails him. 15 damage, 15 armor remaining in the right arm. It's an Awesome. Maybe not the best target to go for, but it's the only target you've got currently. The Skimmer also poking away at the building. The Cougar starting to chip away at building hexes. Man-O-War looks like he's going to get most of a building hex, if not 1 building hex to collapse. Yeah, there's a lot of CF coming down here because he's able to unload at point blank range every turn. Weapons fire from the Behemoth onto the Awesome. Looks like he's plinking away with those LBXs and not getting any crits. It's not what you want to see. And the Awesome just chunked 30 points of damage into that building. Missed 1 PPC. It would have been 40 on 5s. Not terrible. And the Fire Falcon is almost chipping away at an entire hex with its full complement. One thing to note, cluster weapons, at least missiles, I thought were supposed to do max damage if you're adjacent to the hex. He must not be adjacent because you only have 4 missiles there on an SRM-6. Austral, tearing apart that Dasher. Medium pulse laser hits. That Dasher's done. It's the crit on a foot, crit on an upper leg actuator. 2 internal structure remaining. Lost his left arm. Yeah, he's done for. Weapons fire for the Dasher. He did get a building hex to go down to 28 CF. I don't think that's going to help him too much. Unfortunately, the Dasher's not really pulling its weight here. Bloodhound, on the other hand, already starting to work on a hex, brings it all the way down to 4 CF. And it looks like the Dasher succeeds on both of his piloting checks, needing 6s for both of them. Wow, I wasn't expecting that. And the Awesome also succeeds, remains standing, physical attack phase. Gargoyle kicks a building down to 1 CF, so that way that little Skimmer can plink it away next turn. And the Dasher also kicks the building for all of 2 points. Or 4 points, sorry. Heat phase, Hellhound's at 1 heat, Behemoth at 4 heat, Awesome's up to 4 heat, Bloodhound is up to 1, and the Austral is sitting at 9 heat. On into round 5, it looks like Sam wins initiative again, twice in a row, rolling an 11 to Tweezer's 6. Let's see if he can capitalize on this a little bit. All right, going into round, I think 5 at this point with that. I just said it 2 seconds ago. So here's the aftermath of the last round, and here's the movement for this round. So he's pulling back with the Dasher, and the Austral is turning around to start chipping away at the Behemoth. Looks like he's getting rear shots on a direct line on this Behemoth, which is not ideal. The Awesome's still sitting in his perch. Looks like he just pivoted, so he has the option of either shooting at the building or shooting at the Behemoth, whatever tickles his fancy. And it looks like the Bloodhound is committing to destroying this building up here in the top right, while the Hellhound is leaving. He's coming this way to help with the Awesome and or the Austral, because you do get combat points for destroying structure or for destroying enemy units. So he's going to want to, work on that. The Cougar down here in the donut hole, working on this building in the bottom left. Fire Falcon is the last unit to move, so we'll see if he gets adjacent to the building hexes or if he decides to come back and deal with this Awesome. Looks like the Gargoyle is turning around to actually help out with this Fire Falcon and this firefight over here with the Behemoth. Looks like he's done enough, or at least is pulling back a little bit so he can finish off the building from long range. All right, let's look at these firing lines here. Let's pull up. There we go. And the Fire Falcon does go adjacent to the building hex, so he will be doing full damage on any clusters. And the Dasher is going to be plinking away at that same building hex. Hellhound and Behemoth onto the Awesome. The Awesome chooses to engage the Behemoth head on. I'm assuming that Austral is going to shoot the Behemoth in the rear. Why wouldn't you? Cougar and Fire Falcon into the building. Man-O-War into the building. And the Bloodhound up in the top right also into the building because it doesn't have any other shots. More than likely. Let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log. for this phase. Okay, nobody fails any piloting rolls. Dasher does not fail his mask roll to get out of dodge. Bloodhound, there we go, working in on another building hex. Hellhound into the awesome from downtown again. Nails him with another ER large, so we're getting there. 7 armor remaining in that right torso. Too bad it's got a standard engine. Ferret blinks away at a building. Cougar XR takes out a building hex. Says building destroyed right there. So working down, getting that objective down. Gargoyle also takes out another building hex. And the Behemoth unloads into the awesome and finally connects with those ER large lasers, but he only connects with 2 of the LB5Xs. And just shaving armor off. I mean, he's still pretty safe, not really connecting or clustering very well. Center torso's down to 17, left torso's down to 14. Not much to write home about other than that. Skimmer plinks away for 3 points of damage to destroy that building hex that only had 1 construction factor remaining. And the Fire Falcon unloads into the building at point blank range. The SRM-6s, all 6 missiles hit. Target adjacent building. So there you go. Automatic hit. Which is good if you really need to get a building down in a hurry. This is where MRMs will shine if you have a mech with them, or vehicle for that matter. And the awesome returning fire on the Behemoth doesn't really get anything good, but the Ostel also doesn't connect with anything on the rear arc of that Behemoth, needing 11s. Dasher plinks away at that building hex again. Not much else it can do with those leg crits. So we have 3 building hexes collapsing this turn, and the awesome making his piloting check. Physical attack phase, just kicking away at these stretchers. Not much to write home about. Heat, though, on the other hand, the Hellhound 2 is at 1, Behemoth is at 1, Bloodhound is up to 2, and the awesome is up to 7. Getting a little toasty in there, so he's going to have a movement penalty next turn. And the Ostel staying at 9 heat. Initiative for round 6. Alright, initiative for round 6. So this is where the streak compensation comes into play. They both tied on a 7. Sam rolled an actual 7. Tweezer rolled a 6, but the comp bonus bumped him up to a 7. And Tweezer won the tiebreaker, which should have got the +1, I think. I mean, at least that's, I believe, how it should work, but it doesn't. So it only works in that first roll. If there's any tiebreakers after that, you're on your own. It gave you the tiebreaker. So good luck after that. But that does mean that Tweezer did win initiative, so he may be able to get back in that rear arc of the Behemoth. Movement phase, which we're not there yet. Let's take a look at the map. So there is the aftermath of last round. Not really much to write home about. And here's the movement phase. So that Ostel, I do believe, has rear shots on the Behemoth. Dasher's not doing too much, just hanging out up top. Elemental's not really doing anything. They're jumping back to this building here. I don't think they're going to get to that Bloodhound anytime soon. I think they're going the wrong direction. Maybe he's trying to conserve points by not having them engage in combat and making them safe. But Tweezer's already committed to his 2 buildings, and these elementals have done basically nothing this whole match, which is a little disappointing. And I think that's, if anything, is going to be a cause for which way this match goes. It's going to be these elementals not pulling their weight. He's point blank range with the awesome, which I don't know if that's where you want to be. I mean, he's got 4 PPCs, so he does have a minimum range penalty, but he's probably going to hit anyway on needing 6s at point blank range. Fire Falcon maneuvers a little bit to get his TSM up and stays in point blank range of the building. I don't think the Ostel, well, the awesome will have decent shots on him. Manowar moves back to finish off the building X instead of continuing to move closer to this Fire Falcon. So decided to change his mind there. Bloodhound and Cougar remain plinking away at their individual building X's. Let's see how this goes in the combat phase once we see the lines of fire. Okay, Dasher's working away at that hex. Cougar, Fire Falcon, Bloodhound, and Gargoyle are all doing what you expect them to do. Hellhound into the, looks like, side arc of the awesome. Behemoth also into the side of the awesome. Hostile more than likely going to unload onto that behemoth in the rear arc, which could be bad for Tweezer because he doesn't have that much rear structure left. So let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log. So we already knew that the Hellhound made his piloting check. Hellhound from downtown, needing only 7s this time. Not bad on those Clan ER largest. Hits with 1, and he's internal on the right torso. Finally. Whiffs with the rest of his weapons, though, unfortunately. That LBX-10 could have wreaked havoc now that he's open on one structure, or on one torso. Ferret into the building, Cougar into the building, Bloodhound into the building. Behemoth, on the other hand, unloads, point blank range, like we mentioned. I think this might be almost a full alpha strike. There's 5 ER mediums. Oh, nope, decided not to fire any of the LBXs. Probably the minimum range penalty, making it not worth it, and just going all in on the ER mediums. The Gargoyle into the building, Fire Falcon into the building, Skimmer also into the building, Dasher into the building. Only 8 CF remaining. Eventually he might get that hex down. Awesome into the Fire Falcon. Ooh, that is not good. So he connects, 10 damage in the right leg, 1 internal structure remaining. The next one hits the left arm, destroys it. So he loses the pulse in that arm. So his damage output is going to be significantly reduced, losing a whole arm like that. And the third PPC hits in the right torso, destroys his searchlight, and goes internal. But that's not a good look for that Fire Falcon, especially with the crit on the foot for a fast mech. That's usually a death sentence. He fails the PSR. The Hostile whiffs both shots into their Behemoth's rear arc again, needing 9s though, so not easy numbers to hit. So the Fire Falcon fails his PSR, takes 3 damage to CT, makes his seatbelt check. That's his second head hit, because the he fails and gets his second head hit, and he stays conscious. There we go. That's his second hit because the Awesome punched him in the face earlier, which does not feel good, and the Awesome stays standing after taking more than 20 damage. Cougar kicks a building, and Bloodhound kicks a building to destroy a hex. And we're at 4 heat on the Behemoth, 5 on the Hellhound, 2 heat on the Bloodhound, 0 heat on the Awesome now. He's cleared it out, and 9 still on the Hostile. Initiative for round 7 goes to Tweezer again. So he may be able to really run away with this now, depending on how his positioning works out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map here. So this is the firing lines from last round. Here's the aftermath. No one's fallen over. See, more building hexes are falling. There's that one over there that just went away. Here's the movement, I do believe, for this round. Yep. There's the Dasher, not moving closer to the building to get adjacent to make sure all those missiles hit. The Elementals backing up again. This is definitely confusing for me. The Hellhound moving up a little bit. The Cougar and the Fire Falcon doing their thing. The Man-O-War backing up. Don't know if he's going to have enough damage. He should have enough damage, or he should have shots in this building to finish off a hex. Bloodhound and Ferret continuing to work on this building up here. Looks like he's definitely taken the lead in building damage, and he's gonna double team this poor little Behemoth out here in the center. He still needs to move his Hostile as of right now, and it's in the rear arc, which we all saw coming. So this could be a big round for Tweezer here if he connects real hard with this Hostile. Probably gonna throw 2 punches in the rear arc for 12 damage each. This could be the end of the Behemoth real quick. So nothing else to write home about. Looks like the Man-O-War doesn't have any shots this turn at all, so can't even finish off the building right now. But we'll pull up the log and see how this turns out. Dasher doesn't fail mask. Makes his piloting checks. Fire Falcons, he makes his piloting check. Awesome. Makes his piloting check. He also actually fell running on pavement. Took a little bit of damage, and looks like he didn't fail his seatbelt check, just skidded a little bit and took some more damage. Other than that, he looks fine. So he is on the floor as of right now, I do believe, which means no punching for him. unless I'm mistaken. And the Fire Moth nails the hex with tag for good measure. Weapon attack phase, Hellhound into the Osel on 11s and 10s, completely whiffs at long range. Not really being consistent here on these high numbers. I mean, you're just looking to get lucky here. Skimmer finishes off another building for 3 points of damage, so he's definitely taking the lead there. Cougar XR finishes off a building hex, so they're both gaining objective points. Barrett plinking away at the building. Behemoth into the Awesome, again at point blank range. He finally gets some solid hits and some crits, but they're in the left torso, which is packed out with double heat sinks. You're not really gonna get too much out of there. He hits him again in the left torso with 2 crits on an LBX pallet. Again, critting double heat sinks twice. Ooh, tough luck. Crit roll on the right torso doesn't come up with anything, but he is internal in the right and left torso now. So he needs to hopefully finish off one of those torsos to neuter that Awesome. You can get some of those PPCs to go away. Bloodhound into the building, Fire Falcon into the building, destroys a hex this time. Awesome into the Behemoth, needing 8s at point blank with those PPCs, only connects with 1. Behemoth is perfectly fine for now. Dasher finally gets that building hex, and the Ostel, which looks like it's in the rear arc, yes it is, only connects with 1 medium pulse laser on 9s. So the Ostel's had a lot of shots on the rear, but he hasn't had a lot of luck connecting. Rear arc is a good idea, but it's not a foolproof strategy, as we can see here. And it also doesn't hurt that he fell and skid, so he's got penalties to shoot. And the Awesome makes his piloting roll, and fisticuff phase, just kicking buildings here. Nothing special. The Ostel didn't get to punch because he is prone. Awesome's up to 10 heat. Ostel's still sitting at 9. Hellhound at 3. Behemoth at 1. And Bloodhound at 2. Coming up in round 8, it looks like Sam wins initiative. Street compensation coming in, but not making much of a difference because he won anyway. Let's see if he can capitalize on this, because he is definitely on the back foot after that round, at least as far as objectives go. He is burrowing into this Awesome. Whoa, there it is. He's internal on 2 torsos, so the Awesome is in force withdrawal, which means, and for our purposes in the VPT, he doesn't have to move toward his edge, but he can no longer score objectives unless they're combat objectives like blowing up a building. So he's perfectly fine, all things considered. It's the aftermath. Not much else to write home about, just some more building hexes collapsing. One thing to note, Tweezer did collapse this entire building, getting that 4th hex, so he gets the other 2 hexes that fell along with it worth of combat objective score. So he has taken a solid lead, considering Sam's got his building hexes that he's destroyed a little too spread out. There's 1 up here, 2 down here, 1 down here. He's gonna have to commit to one of these buildings, probably this one in the middle, because it's further along than the one in the top, in the northwest. So, and the elementals jumping up, going back and forward. I'm not sure what the plan is with these, but I do believe this is definitely a detriment for Sam here. Okay, let's get into the movement phase. The Hellcat's already moved a little bit here. He's finally crossed the river. And he's committing to the building. Here we go. The Behemoth has moved and is also committing to the building. It looks like he's noticing how far behind he is, and he needs to catch up. He is still point blank with this Awesome here. The Skimmer's moving across, maybe to engage the battle armor, maybe to help out with this other building. Bloodhound and Ferret continuing to plink away at this building in the top. Fire Falcon doesn't look like it moved and is just committing to firing into the building. Osel moved up to nail the Fire Falcon. I don't think this thing's going to survive this turn. If it does, I will be very surprised. But that's pretty much it for firing lines this round. Let's take a look at the combat log and see how that poor little Fire Falcon dies. Skimmer makes all of his piloting checks because he's skill 2 and automatically makes them. Osel gets up, needing a 4, rolling a 7. weapon attacks for the ferret, plinking away at that construction factor of that building. 1 CF remaining. Almost had it. Little ferret, almost. Hellhound nails the building. Not much to write home about. Bloodhound nails another building X. Cougar XR into another building X. 1 CF remaining. Awesome into the behemoth. PPC to the head on 7s. Goes internal. No crits, thankfully. But he does take the 1 damage, but he makes his consciousness check. So another 10 damage to the left torso. Another 10 damage to the left. Oh, I'm sorry. Another 3 damage to the left leg because he hit with a small laser, not a 4th PPC. But he hits with 2 out of the 3 PPCs he fired, so that's a PSR on that behemoth, no matter how you slice it. And the rebuttal from the behemoth to the awesome hits him in the arm, left torso, which is internal, 8 internal structure remaining. Bonks him in the head on a return shot. Makes his consciousness check. Doesn't go internal because he only hit him with an ER medium. And the LBXs are firing at the building, not at the awesome. I didn't realize he split fire that way. Doesn't look like he collapses any buildings with that, but it's plinking away. Only 8 CF remaining in that particular hex he was shooting at with the Hellcat or Hellhound. And the Ostel into the Fire Falcon misses with 2 medium pulse lasers on 7s, connects with the 3rd and an ER medium on 9s. Goes internal, gets an engine crit, takes out an SRM-6, but the Fire Falcon is still there, standing for now. Fire Falcon unloads and is able to destroy another building hex, which is a good sign for him as a last gasp. Oh, and the Man-O-War looks like he whiffs almost across the board. Yes, he does, except for 1 ER medium to the CT, which brings him down to 0 armor. So that Fire Falcon actually survived this round, which is a miracle if you ask me, especially considering how much damage it's already taken. Dasher plinking away at another building hex, not really contributing too much, but is conserving battle value considering it's still alive. So the Behemoth makes his PSR at the end of the round. The Awesome does not, failing on Snake Eyes, falls on his center torso, goes internal, no crit, but he does take 3 damage to the right torso and crits out one of his PPCs. No bueno there, but he's got the sinks to remain neutral now, if you want to look on the bright side. And he does make a seatbelt check, so no second pilot hit there. Physical attack phase. Ooh, actually, here we go. The Behemoth kicks the Awesome, destroys the right arm, transfers to the right torso, but no crit, unfortunately. 8 damage internal on the right torso, crits out another heatsink. Physical attacks for the Ostel just pummel this poor little Fire Falcon. A kick destroys his left leg and his left torso, and an SRM-6, and gyros him because it transfers all the way to the center torso. He's got 4 CT structure remaining, but the kick from the Fire Falcon destroys a hex of building. So he's getting his last gasp out and doing his job before he goes down. And the Dasher kicks another building hex. And the Fire Falcon automatically falls and has 1 internal structure remaining on the CT. He's got 3 total pilot hits because he fails his seatbelt check, needing 10s. Oof. But he's still conscious for this turn, so we can get a little bit more damage out. That is one tanky little Fire Falcon. I am amazed that thing is still alive currently. Okay, so heat, it's actually starting to get spicy here. Hellhound is at 3, Behemoth at 2, Fire Falcon at 2, Bloodhound at 2, Awesome at 15, needs 4 to avoid shutdown, and rolls a 4. Ooh, on the money there. Ostel needs a 9. Going into round 9 here, looks like Sam wins initiative again. 8 versus 6 on Tweezer. Let's see if he can bring this home and finish off that Awesome, which will be a big chunk of Tweezer's battle value and also a lot of his damage output because that Bloodhound's busy, but the Gargoyle is coming back. Let's take a look at the aftermath here. So this Awesome is gonna be prone. Yep, there he is. As is the Fire Falcon, which ended up taking out 2 hexes this turn. That is actually huge. That means Sam only needs 1 more hex to get rid of that building. So he's also 1 hex away from getting rid of this building. it looks like all of a sudden Sam's caught up on building damage. He hasn't collapsed a full building yet, but I'm pretty sure he'll be able to do that this turn and get rid of one complete building. While the Bloodhound still has to get through another 2 hexes. I think one of these hexes has 1 CF remaining, so that Ferret's going to deal with it, but that's still a lot of CF for just this Bloodhound to handle, which means Sam's going to win the race more than likely, if he decides to. He may commit to the Awesome and or the Mana War, depending on how movement shakes out. Let's go ahead and get into the movement, speaking of which. Okay, so the Ostel moves up. It looks like that might be rear shots in the Behemoth. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, taking advantage of that exposed rear torso. Behemoth looks like he's moving in to maybe help finish off this building. Skimmer coming in to poke at the Fire Falcon. Gargoyle moving up. I think he went the wrong way there because there's a lot of woods and shrubbery here. I don't think he's going to have line of sight to the Behemoth or the Hellcat, or Hellhound for that matter. Bloodhound maneuvering to poke at the building better. Cougar still in the donut hole poking at the building. Fire Falcon can't move. Not much to write home about there. He's got no gyro, so it looks like he's just turned around to try and take pot shots at anything nearby, which is going to be that Skimmer, if he's even got any weapons left. All right, let's look at the lines of fire here to see who committed to what. Hellhound into the Awesome on the rear arc. I don't know if that's the right choice considering his front's exposed, but I mean, you got the shots, you may as well take them. Awesome is not shooting at anything right now, I don't think. Neither is the Gargoyle. He's just going to poke away at that heavy woods in front of him to give him more of a path to get by. Maybe that's light woods. Cougar into the building. Fire Falcon. I don't know what he's shooting at, if anything. Bloodhound into the building, Dasher in the building. Same old, same old. Nothing really to write home about. Let's look at that combat log. Okay, round 9. Skimmer makes all of his piloting checks because he's skill 2. Mana War makes his piloting check. So does the Behemoth for running on pavement. Dasher nails a clan tag for shits and giggles at this point. Bloodhound takes out another building. Down to 30 on his 4th building hex over there. Hellhound into the Awesome on the rear arc. Destroys the left torso. There we go. Limb blown off. So that looks like he crit, I do believe. I don't know if there was already internal on that. I'm pretty sure he was already internal on the left rear. But he does get the limb blown off, left arm blown off section. Oh wait, never mind. Since he destroyed the torso, the left arm automatically blows off. Never mind, that's standard. But he does get a crit on one PPC twice, or 2 different PPCs. I don't know if there's 2 in that left torso. I don't think there is. And he gets another double heatsink. And he's got 13 CT rear armor remaining. Misses with the other ER large and the LB10X. Damn, that would have been a really good time to hit with that LB10X. Only needing 6s. That's tough luck for Sam there. Ferret destroys another building hex, so I think that building is destroyed, and Sam is possibly done with his objectives or 1 building hex away. Cougar XR fires into a building, only needing 1 CF remaining to get rid of that hex and the rest of that building from the looks of it. Behemoth starts working on that south building's last hex, and the Gargoyle unloads into that poor little forest and murders a bunch of woodland creatures. Fire Falcon takes 3 damage from the small laser. Dasher's still plinking away at the building, and the Ostel shoots at more terrain, getting rid of some forest. Physical attack phase, 21 CF remaining on that Bloodhound's hex. Cougar takes out another hex, so that should be the entire building collapsing. And the Dasher kicking away at a building up north. So, I mean, the Dasher's not doing nothing. He is contributing to tiebreaker points because any objective points beyond the cap are what we're going to use as tiebreakers. Or if the combat score and objective score are equal, that's the first thing we check is excess objective score. But if the combat score is not equal, then whoever wins combat score is going to win the match. So Sam wins initiative again. I think this is for the 3rd turn in a row. So this is huge for him. He's really putting a number on that Awesome. movement phase, which we actually need to get into. So here is the firing lines. Here's the aftermath. So Tweezer needs one more building hex on this Bloodhound. Sam needs one more building hex down here south with either the Behemoth, the Hellhound, and or the Cougar, because the Cougar just finished off this entire building on the bottom left. So he's got a lot of options here and how he wants to go about this. The Cougar, I do believe, may be out of ammo, unless he just is conserving ammo and only fired that ER medium. We'll have to double check on that later in the rounds. Hellhound has maneuverability. I think he's decently maneuverable enough to get line of fire on this building down here. I don't know if Tweezer is gonna, I mean, Tweezer's basically done with his objectives. He just needs to get combat score now, because that Bloodhound should clean up that last hex next turn. That'll be given his 4th hex and collapse the rest of the building. But combat score wise, I do believe Sam may be up right now. The Behemoth is jacked up and it could die at any point with a good rear shot, because he doesn't have that much in the rear torso left. But this maneuvering this turn is probably going to decide the outcome of the game. And again, unfortunately, these elementals, I have to point out, are doing absolutely nothing on the top of the map by themselves. Hate to see it. Okay, and here is movement. Looks like the Behemoth committed to the building to get the objective. The Hellhound and the Cougar repositioning, probably to try and finish off that Awesome from afar at a safe distance so that they don't have to deal with that Man-O-War. But the Ostel, the Man-O-War, and likely the Awesome are going to unload into that Behemoth. That's a lot of damage. The Behemoth didn't jump, so it probably has little to no TMM, 1 at max at this point. So this could be a bad round for that Behemoth, and depending on how it goes for that Awesome, it could be a good round for Tweezer. All right, let's go ahead and look at the firing lines to ensure who's shooting at what. Yep, Cougar and the Hellhound into the Awesome. Awesome, I don't think has lines of fire or is firing anything currently. Behemoth looks like he's jammed and prone. I'm not sure what happened there, but so I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, when we're still in the firing phase, but this building collapsed. Interesting. You know what? Let's go ahead and look at the log, because this is a little confusing. So here is round 10. Just making sure we're on track here. There's all the piloting checks. Awesome is fine. Ostel is fine. Skimmer is, of course, fine. So there's that last building hex from the Bloodhound. Here's the Hellhound firing into the Awesome. Gets a crit on the center torso with no crit only 10 internal stretch remaining there. An SRM-6 bonks the Awesome in the head. He stays conscious. Bonks him in the head again. Gets internal. Crits out the sensors. This is his 3rd hit. Needs a 7 to stay conscious. Rolls a 5 and takes a nap. So the Awesome blacks out. Not good for Tweezer. Okay. Cougar XR misses with the ER pulse on 10s. Since he didn't fire those LRMs, something tells me he may not have any more ammo left for those. The Behemoth unloads into the building and collapses it, needing 2s to hit, so all of his weapons automatically hit. The Gargoyle unloads into the Behemoth, needing 9s, surprisingly. I guess there is a decent amount of forest in the way. Only 1 ER medium hits and the LB-20. Ooh, that LB-20, one of those pellets bonks him in the head, gets a double crit on life support and sensors, so that Behemoth is going to have a hard time connecting with shots. But other than that, it's still functional and still very dangerous. Dasher chipping away at that building in the top left. Ostel unloads into the Behemoth as well. Just hits armor on the CT in the left arm. Still standing until the piloting check phase at the end of the round. And when he falls, goes internal on the right rear, because apparently he fell on his butt, and crits out one of his LB5Xs. Thankfully, it wasn't ammo. And that's a seatbelt check for him that he makes. Physical attack phase, Dasher kicks a building. And heat phase, nothing too fancy. Nobody's overheating too much, just the Ostel maintaining his 9 heat. 1s and 2s here. initiative phase for round 11. So here we go. This is all fisticuffs. Tweezer wins with a 14 on initiative. So Sam rolled a 9, Tweezer rolled a 12, has the +2 compensation bonus. So he definitely wins initiative this turn, and this is when it's really going to count because objectives are done. Now it's just murder each other. And here's the movement phase, which we'll go ahead and pull up and take a look at. So here's the firing phase, even though we already saw the building collapse for some reason. Here's the aftermath of the firing phase of that last round, the beginning of round 11. And here's the movement phase for round 11. So the elementals creeping up, Bloodhound making his way back across the map because he's done kicking his building over. Awesome is blacked out, so that Hellhound, is he prone? If that Hellhound went up on there and that Awesome is prone, which he might be, he's not going to have any shots on it because it's behind level 1 cover. The Cougar is maintaining its distance because I think he's trying to conserve battle value, hoping to trade the Awesome and the Behemoth and maybe focus on something else that's a little bit smaller. The Dasher's still plinking away at this building up top, so we'll see how that goes for him. The Behemoth does move forward though, trying to draw fire away from the rest of his units. I think Sam may just be running out of steam here and doesn't have the damage to commit to something like the Hostile or that Mana War between his Gargoyle. I mean, between his Cougar and his Hellhound, especially with the Elementals being all the way across the map, not contributing. So let's take a look at the lines of fire. I'm curious to see who's shooting at what here. Okay, Behemoth into the Hostile, Cougar into the Awesome, Hellhound into the Mana War. So that means the Awesome is not prone if the Cougar can see it, because that's definitely crossing that line there. I'm 90% sure. And the Hellhound can see it and is choosing not to fire at it. Let's see if that works out for him. Awesome is blacked out, so he can't fire, which is fine. Mana War into the Behemoth, and the Bloodhound doesn't have any shots. Everything's too far away from the looks of it. So let's see how this shakes out in the combat log. Okay, Fire Moth plinking away at the building. Hellhound hits the Gargoyle with the LB10. I think that's the first time I've seen that LB10 hit all game. The 2 ER larges miss on 8s. He does get a head hit with one of those pellets, and 2 hit the center torso rear. So decent clustering on there, nice fishing, but you know, it's just an LB10X. That's the first damage that thing has taken all game. It's going to take a lot more than that to bring it down. Cougar hits, oh, it is partial cover, so he is standing. Hits the leg on the Awesome and suffers no damage. Unfortunate there. Didn't hit what he was aiming at, I'm assuming, since he wasn't moving. Ferret machine guns down the center torso of the Fire Falcon and destroys it. That's, ooh, you hate to see it. Getting plinked away by basically the smallest helicopter available and a dude hanging out the window with a machine gun. The Behemoth returns fire onto the Hostile, needing 11s and 10s across the board and whiffing entirely, which is not what you want to see if you're Sam. The Hostile return fire, only needing 8s, nails him with a large pulse and a medium pulse, and gets internal on the center torso. Not good, not good at all. Misses with another medium and an ER small. The Gargoyle unloads into the Behemoth. ER medium hits the left torso rear. Oh, so he did have rear arc. Okay. Miss center torso rear, right arm, center torso rear, right arm, and the LBX 20 connects, needing a 6. Ooh, that's not good. He nails a cluster, LBX 5 cluster ammo, so that's 2 extra pilot hits for 4 total, needs a 7, rolls 4, and blacks out. So that's probably going to spell doom for that Behemoth, if not this turn, next turn, because this LB20X is still going. That's another 2 hits on another ammo explosion. That's 6. The Behemoth is dead due to pilot death. Man, that's brutal. He finally got internal, and that one LBX-20 shot just took him out. And the Dasher misses the Skimmer. I didn't even know the Skimmer made it up there. And he kicks the building for 4 points of damage, 12 CF remaining. That was a brutal round. The Awesome stays unconscious, thankfully, for Sam there. So that should be an easy execution this turn for him, hopefully, if he can get in range with the Hellhound. But dang, that was brutal for Sam, losing that behemoth like that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the map. Okay, so he hard committed to get the buildings down, and he sacrificed the behemoth for it. So that's the aftermath. There's the squish that was the behemoth. The awesome still there. Not much else to really write home about. Okay, now this looks like it might be, yeah, that was movement for that round, and now we're into firing. He's just unloading onto the awesome. The gargoyle and the hostile, I don't think even moved, neither did the bloodhound. I think they may be just calling it, saying, yeah, you're too far ahead of me, I don't have the damage to deal with your gargoyle or your bloodhound. He definitely finishes off that awesome there. Let's see how that works out for him. Yep, head hit destroys the head by damage. All the rest of that doesn't really matter, and Sam calls it victory for Tweezer after a brutal round. So, an interesting match. They both completed their objectives, so they both get the 60 points there, but Tweezer's definitely going to win on combat score. Look at what they had remaining at the end of the round. Sam's down to 46.84, and Tweezer was down to 64.53. Well, before losing the awesome. After losing the awesome, I'm pretty sure Tweezer still is up. Sam calls it, and let's take a look at the map real quick. So, as we can see, I called it out earlier, and throughout this map and this mission, the elementals did absolutely nothing. I don't even know if they shot their one-shot SRMs. Actually, they're space elementals, so they don't even have them. But they just didn't engage a single thing. He had them in position to cross the river early on like turn 2 or 3. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was turn 2. If he would have just committed and crossed the river, he could have had these elementals in this fisticuffs down here and been on that awesome in a couple of turns, or forced the awesome off of his objective and forced him to run so he could have better positioning on that behemoth and the cougar. I really think those elementals could have made a difference, especially if you got into melee range with either the awesome or the hostile, for that matter, if you set a little booby trap for him and, you know, dangled his rear arc for the hostile on the behemoth to get swarmed and or leg attacked and unloaded on by those elementals. It's not a lot of battle value in those elementals, but it's a lot of potential damage and nuisance and crit chances from those leg attacks. Let alone, I mean, we all know swarming is a bit of a gimmick. You only really do it if the mech is unconscious or if it's a vehicle and they move too slow to shake you off. Those are the only times I would consider swarming. But he had a blacked out awesome for 2 turns. He could have annihilated that awesome with those elementals and focused his fire with his bigger mechs on something else. At the very least. So I hate to harp on that, Sam, but hopefully next time you hard commit with those elementals and just throw them out there. Even, I mean, you did conserve battle value. The dasher that got leg crit survived. The poor little fire falcon didn't, unfortunately, but the cougar was unscathed, and so was the hellhound the whole match. And I don't think you're winning that duel between the ammo-less cougar, which is basically just one ER medium pulse laser, and the hellhound against the gargoyle and the bloodhound. And the hostile with TSM and a bunch of pulse lasers. I think he just had the better brawling list, and Tweezer decided, and Sam played the brawling game and lost. If he would have maybe committed, stayed back, he did have the awesome to snipe with those PPCs, but maybe if he just kept his cougar and his hellhound with the behemoth and committed to this building and then just went down across the map to this building over here, he may have had better positioning. This is a very big map, and it does take a very long time to cross it, and it took basically the whole match for that behemoth to get down here into range, when he could have been in range of this building turn 2 maybe at the latest, if not turn 1, and just start plinking away here with that behemoth. And instead of coming all the way down to the corner and basically trading his cougar out while Tweezer did something similar and traded his bloodhound out, he could have committed maybe more mechs to the brawl and more damage that way. Tweezer, on the other hand, he had the brawling mechs and he was able to brawl with them. The Awesome definitely wants you to focus it. It's the tankiest mech out there. It's a zombie mech. It's got a standard engine. It's packed with double heat sinks for crit soaking, and it did its job. It took a lot of fire. It died in the end at the very last turn of the match before Sam called it, but it's a hard target to bring down, and he didn't really commit as much firepower as necessary to bring it down in a hurry. You can bring it down. It's just gonna take more commitment than that. So maybe if he committed harder with the Cougar and the Hellhound instead of going for the objectives to bring down that Awesome that was kind of stranded in no man's land with only the Austral as backup, it might have gone better for him combat wise because he could have killed that thing earlier. Maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe he would have fell behind on objectives and wouldn't have been able to catch up. Although you can see from long range, he was able to take that objective building, those building objectives down pretty quick with that Behemoth and the Hellcat or Hellhound, whatever you want to call it. But overall, I think the big factor or the biggest factor was that the elementals were just dead battle value. Sam was playing behind a couple hundred battle value pretty much the whole match. They did initiative sync, which is, it's not nothing, but they didn't contribute otherwise. Tweezer played a really good game. I expected him to bring that gargoyle back a little bit sooner to help with the brawl, but he brought it back right after he finished off that building. The building is where it is, so you kind of have to commit to it, and you can't really snipe it down from too far away. But he played it well. He divided his forces accordingly, got his objectives done, and was able to brawl with his brawlers on a very big map. So well played, Tweezer. Well played, Sam. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. I'd like to thank at least the Coolants Pod sponsors, Fortress Miniatures and Games. And I'd like to thank all of the people in the MRC and all of my subscribers for sticking in and staying subscribed to me. I know I haven't made anything in a long time. And this is going to be the first video in months, but I'm hoping to get back on a regular schedule now that things have kind of calmed down in real life. So thank you all, and I'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.